So I think Chancellor Fingerhut gave me a good lead into my presentation when he talked about people being committed. And generally when people think about psychology and people being committed, they aren't thinking about technology. But I hope everybody in this room understands the role of psychology and cognitive science in the design of more effective technologies. But many people in the community don't. So I just want to start with a very short video to give a sense of how we think about psychology at Wright State. Oops.
Apple.
Going to the dentist.
Bridge.
Cheating on a test.
Psychology.
Designing and testing new technology. Helping people communicate more effectively. Directly improving lives by allowing people to become more independent.
Well, that sounds great. Where do I sign up?
So the work illustrated in that video is actually a collaboration with Dr. Andrew Junker on a system called Brain Fingers that allows people who are unable to use keyboards or mice to interact with the web and computers using biopotential off the forehead. And our students, Jenny Border, Jay Cooper, and Jim Leonard recently presented their research of that system at the National Center for Technology Innovation. And they got the Brightest Idea Award for the conference. Actually, there 2 awards were given. One went to Microsoft, one went to this team of students. And by the way, the system is set up in the back and during the poster center session. If anyone wants to try that, they're welcome to try that. Dr. Robert Gilkey is an expert on spatial audition. He is PI for the Veritas Cave facility. When this was established over 10 years ago, we didn't have a room on campus big enough to accommodate a cave. And through a memorandum of agreement with the Air Force, this cave was located on the Air Force Base. And I might add, the first cave virtual reality system on Wright State was brought by the Department of Psychology 10 years ahead of the visualization lab and the Appenzeller lab. These VR systems are now linked, allowing people in 2 virtual worlds to interact, and this is a very unique opportunity for research on human technology interaction. A term that we use for the work that we do is cognitive systems engineering, and this illustrates some of the systems where people are teaming with technology to manage complex data. On the left is an example of NASA mission control, and Valerie Shallon in our department was involved in evaluating communications during the Mars Lunar rover mission. Top right is an example of an Air Force Combat Air Operations Center. I was involved in 04 and 06 in the human systems integration evaluation of information technology to be used by the Air Force in air traffic control. At the bottom right, that's actually in the basement of the Xenia Courthouse, where they have a disaster planning center, and we were observing during emergency operations, looking at how people, again, manage data in complex events. However, much of the work today with technology is not just in centralized controls, but we're looking at more distributed control. One of the things that Dr. Gilkey is doing with the CAVE system is looking at how helicopters, so a command center and a helicopter can communicate with a parajumper, a trooper on the ground, and can actually use 3D audio so that when a threat is designated, the parajumper who's on the ground will hear the warning from the location. So immediately he will orient to the threat. And this is really groundbreaking work that Dr. Gilkey is doing. One of the ways that we improve human effectiveness and support decision making is through the design of graphical interfaces. Dr. Kevin Bennett and I this week will be submitting the final manuscript for a book on interface design. These displays illustrate some work that Kevin is doing. On the left is an example of what's called a time tunnels display. This is a display for feed water control and nuclear power. And one of the things, it shows a configuration of 4 variables, but one of the innovations of this display is to use depth to show time. And so you can actually use see the evolution of the process in time of a configurable display. On the right is the Raptor interface. It's an early version of the Raptor interface. This is a display that Kevin has designed for supporting tactical commands, tank commanders, and this display was recently evaluated in field tests, and officers using this command display were faster and more effective in making their decisions. This is an example of an total energy landing display. This is a collaboration between myself and TU Delft in the Netherlands, the Aeronautical Engineering Department. And what we're showing is there's a tunnel in the sky that shows a spatial path to the ground, but in addition we've added the energy path to the ground. And this actually allows pilots to differentiate the role of the throttle from the stick in controlling speed and altitude during landing. And by the way, there's a demonstration. If anybody's a pilot and want to see that display, it's set up in the back and is demoed during the poster session. So I want to close just with a short reference to the Wright brothers. Again, as Chancellor Finger had mentioned, the brain power was a very important aspect in Ohio. But if you know the story of the Wright brothers, you know that shortly before their flight, Samuel Langley, who had a large grant and everyone was betting to be the first in flight, and Langley, by the way, had demonstrated using models of wings and engines that powered flight was possible. He scaled his models up. He launched his assistant Manley over the Potomac River on an airplane with an engine and wings. So he'd engineered the system, but no control system. And not surprisingly, the plane crashed immediately. He did this twice. Crashed. Fortunately, his assistant wasn't killed in the accidents. But when these failures prompted newspaper to speculate that it would be 100 years before man could fly. Less than a week later, 2 brothers from Wright State, from Dayton, Ohio, made the first flight at Kitty Hawk. And the interesting thing about that is when the Wright brothers became interested, they focused on control. Their patents are not on the airplane, but on the control system. They understood if the plane is going to work, you have to put controls in the hands and they were amazed that nobody was asking how we're going to steer this plane when we got it in the air. This is what I see as the main theme of the Kno.e.sis Center. The idea is to put technology in the control of humans and put data, complexity, but at the end, this is about